The item number 5, draft development contributions policy. Oh, it would have been on your agenda as, it's item number 5. On page 253, but the first couple of pages of your supplementary agenda, this came via strategy and finance the other day. So I'm just wondering whether would anyone, Mike, would you like to go through the document at all and just highlight some key features, or would you just like to have questions?
I think we could probably, between Gavin and myself, so I don't know, some councillors won't know Gavin Thomas, who's joined us as a senior policy analyst in the policy team, who's picked up some of this work. Essentially, just to provide a very high-level oversight, one of the things that Council asked us to go away and do was to look at how we could apply catchment models, or to break down some of the catchments that make up the development contributions, with a view to ensuring that the charges fairly fell where the capital works were being considered. We looked at a number of various catchments and catchment models, and they certainly had a variety of effects on prices. The three options we considered was basically looking large. The one that caused the most concern, both from an understanding perspective, but also from a cost perspective, were how we dealt with water supply and wastewater collection. So we looked at trying to establish catchments for that. What that generated for us, they were difficult to break down in catchments because they tend to operate as a single network in both instances. But equally, if you try to break them down into catchments, some of those boundaries were quite artificial, and actually you've got greater inconsistencies and swings within catchments than you've got applying them as a district-wide charge. So we basically looked at a number of options around that. And our recommendations, basically in terms of catchments, was to continue to adopt district-wide catchments for water supply and wastewater. We've signalled that there may be future work and future DC reviews where water supply may be able to be considered as a catchment, but we don't have the evidence base to justify that at this stage. And the other matter that we were asked to look at, and that are around rebate policies for specific areas. And what we're asking Council to confirm is that, like the residential rebate, any future rebates sit in addition to the policy rather than as part of the policy per se. And that is both, that keeps the policy clean and direct, but also makes it quite transparent where Council is choosing or electing to rebate, that it does so in a very transparent and accountable manner.
And you mean by that that the money sits in a fund and it is drawn down on when people successfully apply for the rebate? Yes,
so effectively what you're saying is allowing the policy to strike the DCs where the costs fall, saying quite explicitly beyond that we are choosing to rebate a certain cost or a certain area for a particular purpose, and as you've rightly outlined, then establishing a fund to credit the DCs for that as that's drawn down.
And the view is that that's a cleaner methodology than allowing for it in the policy itself, because often writing those things into the policy will hide the fact that in fact it's rates money that's going into, rates money, it's council income that's actually going into the payment of them.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. There was obviously a lot of discussion at the committee around the catchments, because I think there's a natural desire to move to catchments. But I guess what persuaded me was the map that showed that even if you use the catchment system, you actually end up with perverse outcomes, because you end up charging in areas where you wouldn't want to charge because the infrastructure's already there, simply because of the way the catchments operate. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
Yanni?
Thank you. I see you've made changes to the names as discussed at the committee, so that's good. If you go to page 49 and look at the new retaining wall at 270 Wainui Main Road, it's listed as district-wide. But then if you go to the Northern Arterial, it's listed as Greenfield North. So I'm just trying to understand why a retaining wall at Wainui, which I thought would be pretty localised, would be classified as district-wide, and yet a major highway that services the entire city is classified for one particular area. So I guess there's really a question that I have around how you've actually chosen what the basis is for these things being either district-wide or areas.
At this stage, the asset managers themselves have prepared the list of capital projects and apportioned the percentages of growth to the various catchments. And we have found one or two what we think are anomalies, and during the consultation period we'll certainly be going through the full list just to make sure that everything is being allocated as everybody agrees it should be. So I can't speak about that one particular instance, and there may be good reasons why a retaining wall in Rapaki is allocated as district-wide. I simply don't know, but we are going to go through the full list of capital projects and make sure they are as they should be.
Yep.
I think it's really important that work is done. But yeah, okay. I mean, we can't obviously having a specific debate today about changing each of these. It's probably not something we can do now.
Not at this point, but as I say, we will go through them during the consultation period. I'm not anticipating there would be large-scale changes, so any changes that there are won't flow through to any significant difference in the amount of development contribution charged for any particular area. So,
sorry, have you slipped on to the next paper?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. We've slipped into the next
I'm
report.
not. I'm not. I wasn't paying attention as strongly as I should have been. I was looking for the number, and I only just realised then that you had slipped on to the next report.
Sorry. It's really it's the issue around catchments effectively.
I know.
And so we've got a district-wide rate zone, and then we've got the catchments. And I'm just having, I'm really struggling to align how we've divided those up.
I think that the
challenge the response was that the asset owners have gone through and given you some advice on each of these about why they fit into each catchment or district-wide.
they've made that allocation based on where they see the benefit falling. And so if it's a community-wide benefit and not something they can allocate to the particular catchment, that cost has been allocated at a district-wide level.
So that's cool. The other thing that we discussed at strategy and finance, which I think would be really helpful, and I won't talk further, I just think this helps to look at this together, is actually have the project number next to each of these projects, so that if I wanted to look in and see actually what is Apawa Road Stage 2 and make a submission, I can say, actually, I don't think this should be in this catchment or this should be district-wide.
You actually made that point at the committee, and I think that's a fair point. Yeah. And obviously with the electronic means that we have available to us today, there actually shouldn't be a hard ask.
We're certainly looking at how we can do that in a practical and an effective kind of way. So.
Yeah, I think it's just a hyperlink on each one on the website.
No, I agree.
And just the final question for me, just around that rebate stuff, I just want to be really clear. What are we proposing a central city rebate?
We've been asked to go away and do some work on that, so that's a piece of ongoing work. We haven't proposed that at this point, no.
So there's nothing in the long-term plan that puts money aside for a central city district?
That's correct.
DC rebate, okay.
Yep.
All we have is the residual of the central city residential one.
So are there any other questions? Is there any debate? It would be good to have a mover and a seconder. Jamie moves and seconded by Paul. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. And now we'll move on to the